Just a few hours ago, we saw missiles raining down on Tel Aviv, capital of Israel, as West Asia spirals out of control. And now we've got some fresh updates on the last night attack on Iran, especially the damage that happened to nuclear sites, military bases, and the airfields. But first, let's take a look at this footage that's coming from Tel Aviv. You can clearly see an air defense system in action. There's an interception launch from the site, which seems like it was trying to protect a sensitive location. From the surroundings, it looks like this was pretty close to a civilian area. So viewers, we have a jam-packed episode today. First, we'll discuss some of the footage that is coming out of Israel. Then we are going to do some battle assessment from the attack that Israel did last night. And then we'll see how Indian companies like Asian Paints, ONGC will be impacted because of this attack and this conflict increasing. So let's start this episode. First, let's start from the videos coming out from Tel Aviv. If we see this video, you can see a surface-to-air air missile being launched for some kind of interception, and then this site was attacked by one of the drones or missile coming directly out of Iran. So clearly, this might have been a sensitive location, and if there are reports coming out that any military installations were damaged or attacked, that might be true to some extent, but we don't have Israel confirming or denying any of these reports as of now, but the extent of damage has been really large. However, what we do know is Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps IRGC said they carried out a crushing and precise response targeting dozens of military centers and air bases inside Israel under orders from Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. Khamenei himself vowed this as was not a half measured reaction and warned Israel it would pay. Also, we have some statements coming out from senior military official in Iran. I'm quoting them: "This confrontation will not end with last night's limited actions, and Iran's strike will continue. And this action will be very painful and regrettable for the aggressors." Now let's take a look at what Israeli side is saying. According to IDF spokesperson, I'm summarizing his statement. Dozens of Iranian missiles were fired overnight toward Israel. Many of them were intercepted by Iron Dome and US defenses. That means US air bases and military bases in Jordan and Iraq were active in protecting Israel in this attack. They also said Israeli jets destroyed Iranian air bases in Mashhad and Tabriz, along with missiles and drone launchers in what they called a complete strike. So this situation is escalating to some extent right now. We have seen the videos, the extent of these attacks with cities being attacked right now, and with Iron Dome having a 97% accuracy now. This is what the IDF is claiming. When Iran is firing over 200, 300 missiles, 6 to 10 of them will make it home. And it looks like they did from the visuals that's coming out of Tel Aviv. Now, the most interesting reaction is of Trump and US. And once again, Trump is flipping. Just after saying that he was trying his best to give out a way for negotiation, now Trump is calling in these Israeli airstrikes and as excellent, and he's openly supporting it. Let's take a look at this interview of a senior military official in US. Let's see what he has to say.
Right now, I think there's a question of what's the next best step. President Trump said today he'd like to see more negotiations, maybe peace negotiations, maybe suing for peace in some way that leaves either the mullahs and the ayatollahs there in Iran in less power, or, in a perfect world, a better government. I think he and Bibi Netanyahu played this very well. They had differing interests for their countries, but the same enemy. And Bibi came to D.C. right after inauguration and was telling President Trump he wanted to hit them then when there was an open path to the nuke sites. President Trump said, "I want to make a good faith effort at negotiations to show the world that we're not just going to act rashly." Those things both happened, and the Iranians spit in the president's face. And like he told those folks who attacked our ICE agents, if you spit, we hit. And in this case, it was Israel.
Now let's take a look at the battle assessment from yesterday's attack by Israel on Iran. As per IDF spokesperson Brigadier General Defrin, I'm quoting him: "We will not allow Iran to advance towards a nuclear bomb. We will not allow the development of missiles intended to harm us. This statement came as Israeli forces confirmed direct targeting of Isfan nuclear facility as part of broader campaign hitting over 200 targets across Iranian territory. The operation itself was characterized by its scope and duration. As Defrin explained, the strikes were a part of comprehensive 16-hour operation that targeted not only nuclear facility but also missile launchers and drone infrastructure throughout Iran. The sustained nature of operation demonstrated Israeli capabilities for extended precision strikes campaigned deep within Iranian territory. The targeting of Isfahan specifically was notable given its role in Iran's nuclear program. The facility has been instrumental in uranium enrichment operation and its targeting suggests detailed Israeli intelligence on Iran's nuclear infrastructure and operation priorities. The second images that we have is of Natanz nuclear facility. Now, on this particular nuclear facility, there are reports coming out by IAEA, International Atomic Energy Association, and Institute of Science and International Security about leakage of radiation. And this installation has been described by nuclear expert as one of the few key Iranian sites capable of enriching uranium to higher weaponizable levels. According to the assessment of IAEA, the facility represents the heart of Iran's nuclear program with capability to work in coordination with the Fordo facility to theoretically produce weapon grade uranium for 11 nuclear weapons. The damage assessment revealed extensive impact across multiple facility systems. The institute's analysis indicated the strikes hit both above ground and underground infrastructure with particular damage to electrical and ventilation system critical for underground centrifuge operation. The facility's small above ground enrichment plant was completely destroyed while power and ventilation system essential for underground operations was severely compromised. The facility's design specification made it particularly challenging target, protected by a 7.6-meter concrete shield and located 40 to 50 meters underground. The centrifuge operations were specifically hardened against conventional strikes and accidents. The successful targeting of these protected systems demonstrated sophisticated intelligence and precision strike capability. So, from the looks of it, it seems like Israel have dropped a lot of bomb on these sites, but they still did not reach the actual centrifuge where they are enriching the uranium, which might be multi-story deep underground, like in these mountains. And to some extent, they won't be able to do that without US support in this because they have done that in the past in war in Iraq with their bunker busters bombs and the B 2 bombers. So if Israel have to decapitulate Iran's nuclear program entirely, and they want to disable their uh, centrifuge and their enrichment capability. They have to get support from US to complete this operation now. Now, history is the best teacher. And one thing that history teaches us is that whenever there is a conflict in West Asia, oil prices go up. And this time it was exactly same. Global market experienced significant volatility with world stock markets falling and oil prices surging as Israel launched this military operation. From markets point of view, three sectors across the world will be impacted. The paint business, the aviation sector, and to some extent oil and refining business. As the crude prices go up, the cost of acquiring raw material for these companies will increase because oil is one of the crucial component that's used in the raw material as a raw material in the products of many of these companies. So companies like Asian Paints, Berger Paints, Interglobe Aviation, SpiceJet will be observing fall coming Monday as soon as the market opens. And this will put the entire market sentiment in a jitter and it will send shockwaves as well because to some extent the entire market is trading at a premium valuation both across India and US. So these are really uncertain times. So there can be some amount of panic selling that you can experience in these stocks right now. So if you're an investor in these companies, do hold caution because Monday is going to be pretty painful for you. Now, if you're someone who is new to investing and trying to learn how the world will impact your investment, you can use Nifty GPT to understand how any one of your investment will be impacted by any new event. So, for example, if you want to understand how Asian paints will be impacted by the rising oil prices or a conflict in Israel and Iran, you can just come to Nifty GPT and ask. example, I'm going to ask this particular model, how will Israel's attack on Iran nukes affect growth of Asian paints, and is it good time to invest? So we have the answer. So it says the recent geopolitical tensions, such as Israel's attack on Iran's nuclear facility, could lead to increased volatility in global financial market, including India. For Asian paint, the impact would be indirect and influenced by broader economic conditions such as crude oil prices and global investor sentiment. So this is also a factor. Like even though the prices of crude will increase, foreign investors, FI, will be skeptical in putting money in developing countries because these countries are more susceptible to rising crude prices because they have a huge amount of dependence on importing the crude. Uh, the key observation include increasing crude oil prices. The conflict in Middle East could lead to spike in crude oil prices. I think that makes sense. Second is currency movement. Geopolitical tension often lead to weaker Indian rupee against US dollar. Asian paints has significant export operations, so a weaker INR could boost its overseas revenue when converted back to local currency and improving profitability. Okay, so that's a tailwind. That means this particular aspect can be act as like beneficiary for Asian Paint because since they're in a consumer-based business, they can always pass down their prices down to the consumers. So from that point of view, this company is strongly positioned. And if we see the price of the stock has been correcting and it has been below its 300 DMA now. So it's a really good time to make new entry if you want to be a long-term investor in this particular company. But again, I'm not a financial advisor, so please don't listen to me. Then we have what's the market sentiment? So broader market sell-offs due to geopolitical risk might drag down Asian Paint stock alongside rest of the market, even if the company fundamental remain intact. This could create a buying opportunity for long-term investor if valuation become attractive. Yeah, so as I said, the market sentiment is really negative for this company. This has a strong fundamental. It's a moat, and it has seen multiple West Asian war, and it's not anything new for this company. So if you are thinking about investing in this company, be prepared that for 1 or 2 years, while war goes on, while the war drags on, you might not generate any return. It can be for 3 years as well. But if you want to make big money, you should invest when other people are selling off and with some amount of sense of conviction. You need that conviction. So what's the conclusion? If Middle East situation escalate, it could temporarily depress Asian paint stock price due to market-wide risk aversion. However, this may present a buying opportunity for long-term investor, especially if crude price stabilize and company maintains a strong competitive position. At current levels, the stock is significantly off its high, but investors should consider technical indicators like RSI and moving average and monitor crude prices before making this decision. For now, it might be prudent to accumulate gradually if the stock shows sign of stabilizing, example positive candlestick or reversal patterns. So I also wanted to see what other folks are doing, what our DIS are and FIS are doing for this particular company. Are they coming in or are they sitting out? Because their investment and their capital can affect the price of a stock because they are the folks who bring in the big money. Retailers don't bring in the big money and they're mostly driven by sentiment, news, and tips. So they are the folk who are the main market makers or capital market makers, and I want to understand like what is the reason if they're either putting in money or if they're putting out money. So let's see what's the holding summary. So foreign institutional investors have been consistently reducing stakes in Asian paints from 15% to 12%. The stock has gone down 37% from its peak in February 2025 because of this. DIS are increasing their stakes steadily. So, as I told you, since as the world get more turmoil, FIIs start selling because they don't want to remain invested in developing countries where their investment can go south. And rising oil prices is one of the main reason why majority of the economies, developing economies, face pressure. So that's their natural tendency to pull out money. However, since domestic investors understand Indian market and they understand the moat of the business, they are comfortable putting in the money at these times into this company. So mutual fund and insurance companies have been increasing their stake from 3.80% to 5.67% in March 2025. This indicates domestic investors' confidence in the company's long term fundamental despite near term volatility. Along with that, DIIs have been a net buyers in this particular stock, and I think that's the entire story. FIIs have been a net seller, and DIIs have been a net buyer. Some notable fund activity that happened is VanEck India Growth Leaders ETF and other India focused fund have been seeing buying Indian chemical and paint stock from late 2024 to early 2025. Now this is not a Indian ETF. I mean, like, this is not listed in India. This is a global fund ETF that invests in Indian equities. Along with that, several DII players, including public sector banks and insurance companies, have been accumulating on dips, signaling support at current levels. So, if we see the technical position of this company as of June 14, the stock price is 22,000, not 22,000, sorry, 2,214, and it's trading it between its 52 week high and low. It's not like in the extreme. Along with that, the RSI is in oversold territory, indicating a potential bounce, and this will drop even further as the like prices of crude escalate and the war in West Asia escalate. Uh, in my opinion, this might be a good buy for long term. The company is really strong and it has a good fundamental. And if this keeps on happening and the price corrects from this level, even by 20%, 30%, or even 15%, any new capital in this company would be fruitful over 3 to 5 years. Now, some companies will be positively affected by it. Companies that are specifically involved in oil and natural gas exploration. One such company is called ONGC. Let's try to understand why this company will be benefiting from this particular war. So, I'm asking how will Israel Iran conflict and attack on nuclear site impact growth of this company? So here's the summary of how ONGC will be impacted. So as per Nifty GPT, it says that it will have a positive impact on ONGC for short to medium term. The rise in global oil prices and Israel and Iran conflict increases uncertainty in the Middle East, a key oil producing region. Any escalation could lead to higher crude oil prices globally. Okay. ONGC benefits from higher oil prices as it directly increases its revenue and profit margin. As of 2025, ONGC is already benefiting from stable oil prices, and further increases could enhance free cash flow, aiding dividend payouts and balance sheet strengthening. As you know, our country imports almost 85% of its crude oil needs. And whenever an event like that happened, when uh, there's a spike in crude oil prices, the need of government to invest more in exploration or renewable energy increases. And that's why this company would like to be benefiting if oil prices remain high for a longer period of time. But in short to medium term, this company will be impacted positively because of these news that's coming out. Along with this company does not have a direct exposure to any of the exploration fields in Iran. Although Iran is a major oil producer, ONGC's operations are primarily in India with limited exposure to Middle East. However, ONGC Videsh Limited, which is a subsidiary of ONGC, is an overseas arm, had earlier shown interest in maintaining Iranian oil fields, but US sanctions and geopolitical tension have restricted the progress in that direction. Attack on nuclear sites in Iran could delay or derail future investment that are happening in Iran by this company. Another red flag for this company is the entire transition that's happening to renewable energy. While oil prices rise, the long term push for renewable energy from the government and from the private sector will also increase. That's why some of the companies like Coal India have been diversifying their portfolio, because they are a free cash flow generating company specifically from selling coal, and they are now diversifying their capital and their investment into solar panels and solar panel fields, so that they can have like more renewable sources of energy, and they can be carbon neutral by 2030 or some particular date. So even though this company is producing or involved in extraction of oil, the price rise will impact this company in a positive way in short term to medium term. So you can use this tool to understand if any of your investment will be impacted by this conflict, and what should be the strategy for you to handle an investment. And that's it, what I have for you for today's episode. Wherever you're watching this, just stay safe, stay. And that's all what I have for you for today's episode. If you enjoyed this video, do hit the like button, because it helped reach this video to more users, and subscribe to Vishal Wealth View. Bye bye.